I'm a 40-year-old man from a large family, the second eldest of 9 siblings. My older sister Sarah is just a year older than me. There's a 6-year gap between me and the next sibling, with my mother giving birth every couple of years after that. As the oldest, Sarah and I were always responsible for caring for our younger siblings and handling household chores. Adults often referred to us as Sarah, John, and the kids, as if we weren't children ourselves, but rather additional adults in the home. We were homeschooled, so we were always at home. My duties included waking up early, preparing breakfast for the younger ones, and getting them started on their schoolwork or activities before tackling my own studies. Sarah, being a night owl, handled nighttime duties, especially with the youngest, as there was always a baby in the house. Sarah and I managed most of the household tasks. We took turns cleaning the kitchen and doing the laundry, which was a massive undertaking. I handled guy tasks like mowing the lawn and taking out the trash. As I grew older, I passed some of these responsibilities to my younger brothers, but I was still accountable for ensuring they were done. Once I could drive, I ran errands and shuttled the kids to appointments or playdates. I often tucked the younger ones into bed, reading them stories. Looking back, I realize I acted more like a second father than a sibling. As teenagers, Sarah and I had some freedom to hang out with friends as long as our chores were done. Cell phones weren't a thing back then, so we'd just inform our parents if we were going out, and they were fine with it as long as we were back by morning. I moved out at 20, but still spent a lot of time at my parents' house, and one of my younger siblings was almost always at my place. My brother Tim, for instance, has lived with me since he was 14 because he clashed with our mom. When Tim, at 17, was in a car accident, he called me instead of our dad because I was the one who dealt with those kinds of crises. Our parents often emphasized how important it was for Sarah and me to help with the kids because they were busy with their church work. I can't count how many times I dropped everything to handle something because mom or dad were busy counseling someone. I hope I've painted a clear picture of my childhood. Fast forward to when I was 25. I met Emma, and we fell in love quickly, marrying within a year. My younger siblings loved Emma. She's an amazing cook and hostess, and our home became a favorite gathering spot. They started calling her Mama Emma, a nickname they still use. We've been married for 15 years now and have 2 kids of our own. My mom and Sarah didn't initially get along with Emma. Sarah and Emma are fine now, but my mom still doesn't like her. I think I finally understand why. They feel Emma stole me. As Emma and I focused on our own family, I spent less time helping my parents. My dad, who initially liked Emma, has grown distant from her over the years. He's made comments about me neglecting my duties. Once he called me about one of my younger siblings who had argued with mom, saying, "You need to sort out your brother's attitude. He disrespected your mom, and you're going to make him apologize." A few years ago, Emma and I set firm boundaries, declaring we'd no longer parent or discipline their kids. My siblings are always welcome at our house, but we won't let my parents use us to manage them anymore. My parents didn't take this well. About a year ago, Emma injured her foot and couldn't walk for a while. Just as she was recovering, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, which progressed to kidney failure. I've had several surgeries, with another one coming up soon. It's been a tough year. Not only have my parents refused to help, but they've made things harder, like offering to watch our kids and then canceling at the last minute, usually for a church commitment. My sister-in-law, who lives out of state, recently had a baby, and my mom has been staying with her for 6 weeks, helping out. My sister-in-law calls mom a blessing, and dad visits every weekend. This stings because mom refused to help us even for a single night when our youngest was born. I'm sorry for the long post. I needed to vent. I was recently talking to another sister about how I don't understand why mom and dad treat me differently from the others, even Sarah. It hit me that they resent me for starting my own family and stepping back from raising their kids. Part of me feels relieved to understand their behavior, but part of me is heartbroken. I'm nervous about my upcoming surgery and wish I had parents to confide in. But I feel like I only have co-parents, not real parents. Last night, I talked to Emma about this. I said something like, "I've realized my parents resent me for building my own family and not helping them as much, and I think you've been trying to tell me this for years, but I was too stubborn to see it." We were in bed, and she patted my head and said, "You're so wonderful." I laughed for a solid 10 minutes. It was such a great release. Many of you noted how amazing she sounds, and she truly is. I can't express how much I love her. About Sarah. My older sister Sarah got married and started a family about 2 years after I did. We had a falling out and didn't speak for years, but we're okay now, though not super close. Our conflict was mostly about religion. She's deeply religious like our parents, while I'm more moderate. I attend church, but it's not my entire life like it is for them. Younger siblings. The youngest sibling is 22, so they're all adults now. The second youngest moved away years ago, leaving 8 of us. I'm very close to my younger siblings, who visit often and are fantastic aunts and uncles to my kids. They, including Sarah, are upset about how my parents have treated me this past year. Help with my kids. While I'm frustrated with my parents' lack of help, we don't need it. Emma and I have great friends and siblings who step in, and Emma's parents help when they can, despite living far away. We feel blessed and supported. Therapy. As part of my kidney treatment, I see a therapist, and she's been incredible in helping me cope with my illness. I'm not sure if she's the right person to discuss my parents with, but I'll ask her for a referral. For now, I'm focusing on my surgery, and I'll address this later. Setting boundaries. When I say my parents don't help, I mean they offer to help, but then cancel or change plans in ways that stress us out. A few months ago, when Emma was sick, Mom offered to pick up our kids from school but kept changing plans, leaving our youngest alone briefly, which scared him. After that, I had a heated talk with my parents, expressing my frustration and telling them they couldn't take my kids anywhere, drop by unannounced, or even offer help because Mom nags until I give in. They were upset, but all 7 of my siblings backed me, and so far, they've respected these boundaries. Going no contact, some suggested cutting off contact, but I don't want that. Despite their flaws, I love my parents, and my kids adore them as grandparents. They're great with my kids, and I don't want to take that away. I don't think my parents are bad people, they just misjudged the burden they placed on Sarah and me as kids. I've talked to them about this before, and they've apologized. Some suggested confronting them at their church, but that wouldn't work. Their congregation would praise them for prioritizing their ministry over family. Those devout folks are intense. My surgery is in less than 2 weeks, so I'm focusing on that. I'll put the parent issue on hold and decide what to do later. Thanks for your comments. They've helped me process a lot. Thank you to everyone who reached out with well wishes. My surgery happened last week, and I'm doing better than expected. The past year's treatments felt like they were just keeping me alive, but this kidney transplant feels like a step toward normalcy. It's been tough and painful, but not as bad as I feared, so I'm grateful. Emma's thrilled that so many of you laughed at her calling me wonderful. She says she doesn't get enough credit for her humor and loves these Reddit folks. This all started during a talk with one of my sisters. I'll call her Seven. She's following this and will hate the nickname. Seven had a fight with our parents, and I shared how Emma and I set firm boundaries with them, encouraging her to do the same. She did, and they didn't take it well. This sparked discussions with other siblings, and 2 others, 4 and 8, also set boundaries. Several siblings confronted our parents about their treatment of me during my illness. The day before my surgery, Sarah called to check in, and we ended up talking about our childhood. It was the first deep conversation we'd had in years, and it felt like a bonding moment. She's been in therapy, and her therapist often stops her to unpack the messed up stuff from our past. I used to blame her for how she treated me as a kid, but I now see she was just a child under pressure trying to cope. We've been texting a lot lately. My parents visited after my surgery but didn't bring up the family drama. My siblings say they're struggling with these new boundaries. I hope they eventually realize all 8 of us are disappointed in them and strive to improve. But I'm not optimistic. They're blaming it on spiritual attacks, as usual. Emma and I plan to maintain low contact with strict boundaries. With such a big family, going no contact would be messy and lead to awkward encounters. We've also talked to our kids who want a relationship with their grandparents. While I doubt my parents will change, I believe they'll respect our boundaries. My perspective has shifted. I no longer feel obligated to them. We'll keep contact for my family's sake, not because they've earned it. I was referred to a family therapist and have an appointment next month. I've struggled to write this update, either unable to find the words or going on for pages about my health. I'll try to keep this clear. In May 2023, shortly after my first post, I had a kidney transplant. Recovery has been my main focus. Things went well initially, and I recovered faster than expected. Then a minor illness caused setbacks, and my body started rejecting the new kidney. Late 2024 was rough. I was in and out of the hospital for treatments. They were tough but effective. My body shows no signs of rejection now, and the virus is managed. Maintaining my health will be a lifelong effort, but I'm stable and feeling better than I have since 2023. I mentioned how Sarah and I hadn't spoken much, keeping our distance. After my first post, we started talking about our childhood and learned about parentification. This trauma bonding brought us closer. Her family visited late in 2023, and we spent a lot of time together. I used to judge her harshly for things she did as a kid, but I now see she was just a stressed-out child trying to manage. There were tears and apologies on both sides. We both weren't always kind. We're closer than ever now, talking a few times a month, and our families are planning a visit this summer. Our kids have bonded too. Regarding my parents, my first post came from conflicts with them and various siblings, especially their lack of support during my kidney issues. We all set firm boundaries which they didn't like. Someone said it felt like we were bullying our parents into being better, which sums it up well. Before my surgery, I had a calm but direct talk with them, listing examples of how they'd made things harder for my family. I told them I didn't need or want their help because I couldn't trust them. Something about that, plus all my siblings uniting, seemed to resonate with my dad. He didn't defend himself or deflect. Over the next 6 months, they checked in weekly by text. If I felt up to it, I'd invite them over, which they did a few times. They offered to bring dinner once, and we accepted. They didn't push when I wasn't ready. I think someone showed them my post. My siblings knew about it, and I believe the comments calling them out made an impact. They left their church, which shocked us all. Mom called several siblings asking for specific ways she'd let them down, and listened without defending herself. The youngest sibling moved out, changing their dynamic. Things started improving in 2023. My parents began spending more time with my kids, attending their events. I noticed their effort and told them if they wanted a real connection, they needed to engage with my kids' interests, not just plan things they wanted. Dad found a hobby my eldest loves, and they've bonded over it. Mom and my youngest found a shared interest and have spent time together. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Emma and I are cautious, but hopeful. As for me, I've emotionally distanced myself from them. Growing up, I related to a character in a book who felt he had no adult support, always fighting alone. That's how I felt most of my life. Just me, then Emma. I've built a support system with friends, and that's enough. I'm happy my kids have good grandparents now, but I'll never have deep talks with my parents about my life. On tough days, I have Emma and close friends, and I feel incredibly lucky. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who sent messages wishing me well. My surgery took place last week, and I'm recovering better than anticipated. The treatments and surgeries over the past year felt like they were merely keeping me going, but this kidney transplant feels like a step toward reclaiming my life. It's been painful and challenging, but not as severe as I expected, so I'm not complaining. Emma's delighted that so many of you chuckled at her calling me wonderful. She jokes that her comedic talents don't get enough recognition and says she's a fan of these Reddit folks. This all began during a conversation with one of my sisters. Let's call her 8. She's reading this and will probably roll her eyes at the nickname. 8 had a disagreement with our parents, and I shared how Emma and I had recently set clear boundaries with them, urging her to do the same. She followed through, and our parents didn't react well. This led to discussions among my siblings, and 2 others, 5 and 9, also established boundaries. Several siblings confronted our parents about their lack of support for me during my illness. The day before my surgery, Sarah, my older sister, called to check on me, and we ended up discussing our childhood. It was our first meaningful conversation in years, and it felt like a reconnection. She's been in therapy, and her therapist often pauses her to unpack the heavy stuff from our past. I used to hold resentment toward her for how she treated me as a kid, but I now understand she was just a child under immense pressure, trying to cope. We've been texting frequently these past few weeks. My parents visited after my surgery but avoided discussing the family tension. My siblings say they're struggling to accept these new boundaries. I hope one day they'll realize all 8 of us are disappointed in them and work to improve, but I'm not holding my breath. They're attributing it to spiritual attacks, as they often do. Emma and I have decided to maintain limited contact with firm boundaries. With such a large family, cutting them off entirely would be complicated and lead to uncomfortable situations. We've also spoken with our kids, who want to maintain a relationship with their grandparents. While I don't expect my parents to change, I'm confident they'll respect our boundaries. My perspective has shifted. I no longer feel I owe them anything. We'll keep contact for my family's sake, not because they've earned it. I've been referred to a family therapist and have an appointment scheduled for next month. I've struggled to write this update, either unable to find the right words or going on for pages about my health. I'll do my best to keep this clear. In May 2023, shortly after my initial post, I underwent a kidney transplant. Recovery has been my primary focus. Things went smoothly at first, and I healed faster than expected. Then, a minor infection caused some setbacks, which snowballed into my body rejecting the new kidney. Late 2024 was tough. I was in and out of the hospital for various treatments. They were grueling but effective. My body now shows no signs of rejection, and the infection is under control. Maintaining my health and the new kidney will be a lifelong commitment, but for now, I'm stable and feeling better than I have since before I got sick in 2023. I mentioned how Sarah and I had been distant for years. After my initial post, we started talking about our upbringing and learned the term parentification. This shared experience brought us closer. Her family visited late in 2023, and we had plenty of time to connect. I used to judge her harshly for things she did as a child, but I now see she was just a stressed-out kid trying to manage a heavy load. There were tears and apologies on both sides. We weren't always kind to each other. We're now closer than ever, talking a few times a month, and our families are planning a visit this summer. Our kids have grown close too, which is exciting. As for my parents, my initial post stemmed from conflicts with them and various siblings, particularly their lack of support during my kidney issues. We all set firm boundaries, which they didn't take well. Someone commented that it seemed like my siblings and I were pushing our parents to be better, which captures it well. Before my surgery, I had a calm but direct conversation with them, outlining specific ways they'd made things harder for my family during my illness. I told them I didn't want or need their help because I couldn't rely on them. Something about that, combined with all my siblings standing together, seemed to resonate with my dad. He didn't defend himself or shift blame. Over the next 6 months, they checked in weekly via text. If I felt up to it, I'd invite them over, and they visited a few times. They offered to bring a meal once, and we accepted. They didn't push when I wasn't ready. I suspect someone shared my post with them. My siblings knew about it, and I think the comments calling them out had an impact. They left their church, which stunned us all. Mom reached out to several siblings, asking for specific examples of how she'd failed them, and listened without deflecting. The youngest sibling moved out, which shifted their dynamic. Things began improving in 2023. My parents started spending more time with my kids, attending their activities. I noticed their effort and told them that if they wanted a real relationship, they needed to engage with my kids' interests, not just plan things they wanted. Dad found a hobby my eldest enjoys, and they've bonded deeply over it. Mom and my youngest discovered a shared interest and have spent time together. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Emma and I remain cautious but hopeful. As for my relationship with them, I've emotionally distanced myself. As a teen, I read a book about a character who felt he had no adult support, always fighting alone. That resonated with me. I felt like it was just me and then Emma. I've built a support network with friends, and that's enough. I'm glad my kids have good grandparents now, but I'll never have deep conversations with my parents about my life. On tough days, I have Emma and a few close friends, and I feel incredibly fortunate for that.